Harry's code wasn't just a guide, it was a trap. On the surface, it seemed straightforward. Don't get caught, only kill the guilty, confirm with evidence. But beneath those rules lay something far darker. Hidden lessons that didn't just guide Dexter. They defined him. They controlled him. By the end of this video, you'll uncover the devastating secrets buried within Harry's code, and the true price Dexter paid for following it. Let's break it down. Harry's code had 3 official rules. 1. Don't get caught. 2. Only kill those who deserve it. 3. Always confirm guilt with evidence. At first glance, it seems logical, a way to control chaos and prevent innocent lives from being lost. But ask yourself, why would a father, a seasoned cop, teach his son to kill instead of saving him? These rules weren't just survival. They were control. A facade to keep Dexter tethered to his darkness, shaping a life where freedom was never an option. And that's where the real secrets begin. Harry's code was never just about survival. Beneath the surface of those rules, Harry taught something much darker, something that shaped Dexter's entire life. Without ever saying it out loud, Harry sent Dexter one clear message: people are tools. Every relationship in Dexter's life wasn't built on love or trust. It was calculated. Take his marriage to Rita. On the surface, it looked like a picture-perfect life. A caring husband, a loving wife, 2 kids, and a bright future. But for Dexter, it was all a mask. Rita wasn't a partner. She was protection. Her kindness, her normalcy, created a shield that hid Dexter's darkness from the world. And what about Miami Metro? His friendships with Batista and Masuka seemed genuine on the surface, but underneath, they were purely strategic. Batista's loyalty made him a shield. Masuka's humor distracted others from looking too closely at Dexter. Even LaGuerta's ambition became a blind spot he could exploit. But the most heartbreaking example? His sister, Deborah. She loved Dexter unconditionally. To her, he wasn't just a brother. He was her compass, her protector, the one person she could rely on. But Harry taught Dexter to lie to her, to keep her at arm's length, even when it hurt her. Imagine her heartbreak when she discovered the truth. The brother she adored had been using her trust to protect his secret. Now, here's the question. Was it love or was it control? This hidden rule didn't just protect Dexter, it isolated him. When every bond in your life is conditional, when every connection is transactional, what's left? Dexter didn't just use lies to shield his secret. He built his own cage, locking himself away from real connection. Think about it. Every smile Dexter gave was calculated. Every word he spoke was part of a performance. Can you imagine living like that? A life where no one truly knows you, and where you don't even trust yourself? While this rule kept Dexter alive, it ensured he would never experience what makes life worth living. He couldn't love, he couldn't trust. And the longer he followed this lesson, the lonelier he became. And here's the twist. Harry's code didn't end here. There was another hidden rule, one that was even colder than this. Harry's code had another brutal truth hidden beneath its surface, one that Dexter never questioned, but lived by every single day. Everyone is replaceable. Harry never said these words outright, but his actions spoke volumes. For Dexter, this unspoken lesson meant no one, not friends, not family, not even Harry himself, was indispensable when it came to protecting his secret. Think about that for a moment. Imagine what it does to a person, knowing that every connection in their life is conditional, every bond disposable. This wasn't about morality, it was about survival, no matter the cost. Nowhere was this rule more evident than in Dexter's relationship with Deborah. She wasn't just his sister, she was his compass, the one person who grounded him, who loved him unconditionally. But when she discovered his secret, Dexter faced an impossible choice: protect himself or preserve their bond. And in that moment, Harry's voice echoed in his mind. The code comes first. The decision was clear, but the consequences? Devastating. Deborah's trust was shattered, and Dexter was left grappling with the price of his survival. Was this really the life Harry wanted for him? A life where even the closest of bonds could be sacrificed at a moment's notice. But Deborah wasn't the only casualty of this rule. Think back to Rita. Her death wasn't just a tragic accident. It was an inevitable consequence of Dexter's walls. To Rita, Dexter was her anchor, the man who brought stability to her life. She trusted him completely, never suspecting the storm brewing just beneath the surface. But Dexter kept her in the dark, hiding his truth under the guise of protection. The reality? He wasn't shielding Rita, he was shielding himself. By refusing to let her in, by prioritizing his secret above their relationship, he left her vulnerable to the very dangers he claimed to control. Now, imagine Rita's final moments. She thought she had built a life with a man who loved her, who protected her. Instead, she was caught in the crossfire of a darkness she never even saw coming. Here's the chilling part. Even Harry wasn't immune to this rule. Harry's legacy, his teachings, his code, became just another tool for Dexter to wield. Every bond Dexter formed, every relationship he nurtured, was conditional. If the cost of keeping someone in his life ever outweighed the benefit, they were discarded. Think about what that means. To Dexter, relationships weren't about love or connection. They were about utility. And when people outlived their usefulness, they were let go. But here's the real tragedy. This rule didn't just make Dexter ruthless, it made him hollow. If everyone in your life is replaceable, what's left? Can you truly love someone, knowing they're just another piece on the chessboard? Can you truly connect with anyone when you're always calculating their value? Or do you become a ghost, a shadow in your own life, waiting for the moment when even the people you care about most become liabilities? And here's where Harry's philosophy collapses under its own weight. Harry thought he was giving Dexter the tools to survive in a dangerous world. But in reality, he was creating a world where Dexter could never truly belong. Every decision Dexter made to preserve his secret only deepened his isolation, pushing him further away from the people who could have saved him. Ask yourself this: is survival really worth it if it costs you everything else? This hidden rule didn't just protect Dexter, it consumed him. It stripped away his humanity piece by piece, leaving him trapped in a life of his own making. But as cold and devastating as this rule was, it was only one piece of the puzzle. There's still more to Harry's code, another lesson buried even deeper. And this one reveals the full extent of Harry's control. Harry's next hidden rule was brutally pragmatic: never sacrifice yourself for anyone. At first, it sounds logical: protect your secret, stay alive. But in practice, this rule carried a far heavier cost. It wasn't just about survival. It was about ensuring that Dexter's needs always came first, no matter the consequences for those who cared about him. Think about what that means. This rule wasn't just self-preservation, it was self-centeredness disguised as protection. And for Dexter, it became a guiding principle that left devastation in its wake. Let's start with Rita. To her, Dexter was a lifeline, a stable force in an otherwise chaotic world. She believed she had found someone who would always protect her and her children, no matter what. But Dexter saw her differently. To him, Rita was a shield, a convenient facade that allowed him to hide in plain sight. He told himself he was keeping her safe by keeping her in the dark. But was he? Or was he simply protecting his own secret, his own comfort? By the time danger came for Rita, it was too late. She trusted Dexter completely, never realizing that his silence had left her exposed to the very darkness he claimed to control. Her death wasn't just a tragic accident, it was a direct consequence of Dexter's refusal to let her in. Now imagine Rita in her final moments. Did she wonder why the man she loved wasn't there to save her? Or worse, did she realize too late that she never really knew him at all? But Rita wasn't the only one who suffered because of this rule. Think about Deborah, Dexter's sister, his anchor, the one person who loved him unconditionally. When she discovered his secret, Dexter faced a choice. He could trust her, finally let someone share the weight of his darkness, or he could follow Harry's lesson: protect yourself at all costs. For Dexter, vulnerability wasn't an option. It was a threat. So instead of opening up to the one person who could have saved him, he withdrew even further into his shadow. He chose to protect himself, leaving Deborah isolated, broken, and questioning everything she thought she knew about the brother she adored. Here's the bitter irony. Dexter told himself he was following Harry's code to protect the people he loved. But in reality, this rule didn't protect anyone. It only deepened their pain. Now ask yourself this: how many lives were shattered because Dexter couldn't let go of this principle? How many relationships crumbled because of his inability to prioritize anything but his own survival? And what about Dexter himself? Did he ever stop to question the price he was paying? Or was he so consumed by the need to stay hidden that he didn't even notice the pieces of himself slipping away? Every time Dexter chose his secret over someone else's well-being, he lost another fragment of his humanity. Every lie, every moment of silence was another step toward becoming the very monster Harry feared he would be. Here's the real tragedy. This wasn't a lesson in survival, it was a lesson in loneliness. By teaching Dexter to prioritize his secret above all else, Harry didn't just isolate his son from the people who loved him, he isolated Dexter from himself. Dexter wasn't living, he was existing. A man consumed by his own rules, incapable of true connection. Now, think about this. Can you even call it living when survival comes at the cost of the people who make life worth living? When every relationship is a potential liability and every act of love feels like a risk? Harry believed this rule was essential to keep Dexter safe. But in the process, he created a man who could never truly be free. And here's the final devastating truth. This rule didn't just protect Dexter. It controlled him. Every decision he made was dictated by fear, by the relentless belief that his survival mattered more than anything else. Ask yourself, if you had to choose between survival and connection, what would you do? Would you sacrifice the people you love to keep yourself safe? Or would you risk everything to find freedom? But as devastating as this rule was, it wasn't the end of Harry's teachings. There's one final hidden rule, one even colder, even darker, that reveals the full cost of Harry's attempt to control the monster inside his son. Harry's final hidden rule was also the most devastating. You will always be alone. Harry never said these words outright, but Dexter felt them in every moment, in every lesson. By teaching him to hide his true self, to manipulate others, and to prioritize survival above all else, Harry didn't just keep Dexter alive, he ensured he would never truly live. This rule wasn't about survival, it was about isolation. It was Harry's cold, unspoken belief: monsters don't get happy endings. Think about Dexter's relationships. With Lumen, there was a brief spark of understanding. A shared darkness brought them close, a connection that felt almost real. But when her wounds healed, so did her need for Dexter. And just like that, she was gone, leaving him alone once again. Then there was Hannah. She was different. She didn't run from Dexter's truth. She accepted him for who he was. But even that love was overshadowed by fear. The constant threat of discovery loomed over them like a storm cloud. Could they ever have been happy, knowing that their love existed in the shadow of Dexter's darkness? And finally, Deborah, his sister, his compass, the one person who loved him unconditionally. But the weight of Dexter's lies became too much for her to bear. She had to reconcile two conflicting truths: the brother she adored and the monster she feared. Ask yourself, how do you love someone who has betrayed everything you believed about them? Deborah's love for Dexter didn't save her. It destroyed her. And Dexter? He watched it happen, knowing that the very secrets he kept to protect her were the same ones pulling her apart. Here's the real tragedy. In trying to shield Dexter from his darkness, Harry condemned him to a life where he could never truly belong. Every bond Dexter formed, every smile he shared, every moment of affection was poisoned by one truth. No one could ever know the full story. And without the ability to be seen for who he really was, Dexter's connections were doomed to fail. Imagine living like that, a life where every connection feels temporary, where every bond is built on lies, where you're always waiting for the moment someone discovers the truth and leaves. Dexter didn't just lose the ability to trust others, he lost the ability to trust himself. But what about Harry? Did he see this coming? Or did he truly believe he was helping Dexter? Harry thought this rule was necessary to protect the world from Dexter, but in doing so, he robbed Dexter of the very thing that makes life worth living, connection. Harry's final lesson wasn't about saving Dexter, it was about trapping him in a life where belonging, love, and humanity were always just out of reach. Let's take a step back. Was Dexter doomed to this life? Or was there another way? What if Harry had taught him to embrace his humanity instead of suppressing it? Could Dexter have found redemption? Or was Harry right to believe that monsters like Dexter don't get redemption? They only get cages? Now, let's reflect on your own life for a moment. Have you ever kept a secret so big, so heavy, that it kept you from truly connecting with someone? Have you ever built walls around yourself, convinced it was the only way to stay safe? Dexter's story isn't just about a killer with a code. It's about the cost of living behind a mask. It's about what we lose when we prioritize self-preservation over connection. As we look back on Harry's code, this question lingers. Was it a lifeline, or was it a prison? Was Dexter saved by his father's rules, or was he doomed by them? Harry may have thought he was taming a monster, but in the end, he created something far more tragic. A man who could never escape the darkness, not because he couldn't, but because he was never taught how. Dexter wasn't just shaped by the code, he was trapped by it. And that's the true legacy of Harry's hidden rules. These hidden rules weren't just part of Harry's code, they were Harry's code. They were the invisible threads holding it together, the framework Harry believed would save Dexter. But in reality, he wasn't saving his son, he was building a prison. It was a cage where survival replaced connection, where order replaced humanity, and where every act of living became a calculated performance. The true tragedy of Harry's code lies not just in what it taught Dexter, but in what it stole from him. A chance at a normal life, a chance to love without fear, and a chance to be more than his darkness. Every rule came with a price: isolation, mistrust, and a life spent hiding behind a mask of normalcy, always one step away from the people he claimed to protect. Imagine the weight of that existence. Every lie, every facade, every relationship held at arm's length was another brick in the wall Harry built around Dexter. Even the love of his sister, the connection with a partner, or the fleeting hope of redemption was overshadowed by the rules Harry gave him. Harry's intentions may have been noble. He thought he was taming a monster, but instead he created something worse. A man trapped in the rules meant to save him, cut off from the very humanity Harry wanted to preserve. And here's the heartbreaking truth. Dexter didn't choose this life. The rules weren't a lifeline, they were chains. Chains that tightened with every lie, every hidden truth, until Dexter could no longer imagine a life without them. Did Dexter ever question the world Harry created for him? Or was the weight of those rules so deeply ingrained that he couldn't see beyond them? Harry thought he was giving Dexter a gift, a way to coexist with his darkness. But in truth, he was carving out a life where Dexter's survival would always come at the expense of his soul. In trying to protect the world from Dexter, Harry ensured that Dexter would never truly belong to it, a tragedy that neither father nor son could ever escape. So, here's the ultimate question. Was Harry's code a success or a failure? Did it save Dexter? Or did it doom him to become the very thing Harry was trying to prevent? On the surface, Harry's code kept Dexter alive. It gave him rules, structure, and a way to channel his darkness. But at what cost? The truth is far more complicated. While the code protected Dexter from discovery, it also left him broken, isolated, incapable of building the connections that make life meaningful. Ask yourself this: did Harry truly save his son? Or did he create a life where survival came at the expense of everything that made life worth living? And maybe the hardest question of all, was there ever another way? Now it's your turn. Was Harry right to create the code, or do you think he made a fatal mistake? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed exploring Dexter's world, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.